Hi, friends. It is so good to be back with you in this chair, talking to you and getting back in the swing of our Bible reading plan. I have missed this, and I am so excited for Deuteronomy. I really believe that there is something special about the way that this book puts God's character on display, and for the way it teaches us what it actually means to be a people who are shaped by God's character. That's what's happening in this book, right? At this juncture of the Israelites' journey, they are standing on the edge of the promised land, this new generation. And this is Moses' final parting words to them before they head into the promised land, where they are hopefully going to become the holy nation and kingdom of praise that God has been designing them to be for decades now. My great hope and expectation for this fall is that in the same way that this book was meant to shape the Israelites to be better reflections of God's character, his goodness, and his kindness, and his justice, and generosity, and compassion for the vulnerable, that it would shape you and me as well. Today we're in Deuteronomy chapter 3, and I have a sneaking suspicion that there are two stories from yesterday's reading and today's reading that might have felt a little bit random to you. And that's okay. These two accounts of the defeat of King Sihon and King Og, the kings of the Amorites, are very obscure stories that Moses is retelling. We saw them the first time in Numbers. And I think it's very natural if you read them and are asking, Moses, these are your parting words to the Israelites. I get that, but why these two stories? Why are they necessary to retell? I hope we can shed a little bit of light on that today. I really think that Moses is offering these two stories up as pieces of evidence of God's faithfulness to Israel. On Tuesday, Hannah talked about how their forefathers, their parents and their grandparents, the Exodus generation, got to the edge of the promised land and decided that they could not trust God, that they would not trust God to protect them and defend them when they went into the land of Canaan, right? Based on the spies' reports, they were too afraid and decided that they couldn't trust God to deliver them from anybody who might be hostile to them in the promised land. And I think Moses is bringing up that story, followed up by these two accounts where God did indeed show up, did indeed prove that he would defend them and protect them, that anybody who was hostile to them, that he would bring them out safely on the other side if they were willing to trust in his presence. And I think he's offering these two stories as a way of saying to this new generation, your parents and your grandparents could not trust him, but he's faithful. So will you trust him? I think he shows his hand a little bit in 3:21 when he says, your eyes have seen all the things that your Lord has done to these two kings. So will the Lord do to all the kingdoms into which you are crossing. Right? He's saying, this is what God did before to King Sihon and King Og when they were hostile to you. And he will do it again if you encounter more people who seek to harm you in the future. Therefore, you shall not fear them, for it is the Lord your God who fights for you. I want to be clear. I don't think Moses is telling them that there is no reason to be afraid, or that fear is not a natural emotion that they should be feeling in the face of these formidable nations that they are about to come across. Instead, I think he's saying, this is scary, but the antidote to the fear you feel is a good memory. a good memory of who God is and what he has done for your people time and again. In our culture, I think we have this really unfortunate concept of blind faith or a leap of faith. And the reason I call it unfortunate is because I think it has shaped and tainted our conceptions of what Christian faith means. And friends, I do not think that biblical faith is blind. I think biblical faith is about having your eyes wide open to the evidence of what God has done before and to his character. Right? And so when these Israelites are standing on the border of the promised land again, I think Moses is saying to them, this isn't blind faith. You can have your eyes wide open to what God has done for your people and walk forward in assurance that this is the same God who will do the same thing again. And so as you and I stand at the beginning of our journey with God together this year, where we are seeking to cultivate lives where he can mature us and grow us up and make us people who bear fruit from the Holy Spirit, I really want to encourage us to take a moment today to think about the evidence of God's faithfulness in our lives. What are your stories like this? When has God shown up for you? I really believe that you, like me, can look back at your past and see his fingerprints all over, see the moments where he has shown his goodness to you. And so whether that means journaling or spending some time in quiet prayer and reflection or talking to a friend about it, I just encourage you to think today, what are my stories of God's generous faithfulness to me? And may it encourage our hearts and bolster our confidence so that we also may walk forward with eyes wide open to God's character and assurance that he will be the same God who is faithful to us in the future like he has been in the past. Take care, friends.